What's up, everybody? This is the Helpful Hacker, and today we're going to be going over TryHackMe's Windows Fundamentals 1 room. So we'll jump right into that with task number 1. So first, it's just going to have you start your machines. In order to use this room, you do have to be subscribed, so you can check out the link in the description. You get a $5 credit when you use that link to sign up for TryHackMe. So then I already started my attack box, which I have in a different tab right over here. And then I've already started this target machine. I always like to use the attack box because I'm lazy. You can set up OpenVPN and use your own computer, but whatever, I'm lazy. So task 1, what task 1 wants us to do is it wants us to remote desktop into the Windows machine. So you can read a little bit about that right here. And so to do that, we'll open up a terminal and we'll use a tool called xfreeRDP. And the syntax for this is going to be /u for username. And wait, what is the username? The username is administrator. I almost just typed in username. And then the password, let's look at the password. It's let me in 123 exclamation point. And then the V, which the V stands for like the host that you're trying to RDP into. What is it? It's 10.10.8.206. So 10.10.8.206. And with that, we should be able to jump in. Here we go. xfreeRDP. Okay, so now we've remote desktop into the actual target machine. So we can scroll down here, hit complete, and there's other things you can use besides xfreeRDP. That's just what I always use. Again, with most things, there's 1,000 tools, so just figure out which one you like and use it. Now this task 2, now that we're done with task 1, on to task 2, Windows editions. It's just going to walk you through kind of the history of Windows and some of the different editions of it. Yeah, so read through that. I mean, it's good to have some familiarity with it, I guess, because occasionally you might be working on older computers or older boxes, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so just read through it. I'm not going to go through it. It's pretty straightforward. Different versions, new versions of anything. It's all the same. So then we'll move on to questions. And the question here at the bottom, this is a question you just have to Google. It's not in the actual thing. And the answer is BitLocker. So, but don't just copy me and write it down. Go double check, figure out how, because then in the future, if there's other Windows editions and you want to know what features they do or don't have, you can figure that out on your own. Okay, so that's task 2. We're done with that. Now it's on to task 3, the desktop GUI. So pretty much you have the desktop, you have the start menu, you have the search bar, and you have the task bar. And then you have some other little stuff over there. I think that's called the task view. What is that? Yeah, task view. I don't use that, so do with that what you will. And this is just giving you kind of a general thing because, again, new versions of Windows are going to look slightly different from this, but you'll always have some of the major things like a start button, a search bar, task bar, and a desktop, so take a look at that, read through all these. They have display settings, so you can edit a bunch of stuff. You can personalize a lot of it, and then this is what the start menu looks like, or the search bar. So yeah, look at that, mess around. The biggest thing is just jump over here and start clicking on stuff, seeing how things work, right? Like what's the difference between the search bar versus start menu. You can right click on stuff, you can pin it to start, or I could take that, unpin it from start, What else could I do? Ooh, I could take that. Well, let me pin to taskbar. There you go. So all sorts of cool stuff. So you can customize your Windows machine. Okay, and then you can search stuff by just typing it in, or in the, I think this is in the start menu. Yeah, in the start menu, you can, like, if you have a lot of apps, you can select a letter and it will show you all the apps starting with that and whatnot. So yeah, just read through this. It's pretty straightforward. And then down to the questions, which selection will hide or disable the search box? So to figure that out, I would just right click here. Search hidden. My guess is that that's going to do it. Yep, if you do that, the search box is hidden. So we'll go undo that. Oh, wait a minute. Come on. Search. Show search box. So to hide it, that would just be hidden. Submit that and you're good. Which selection will hide or disable the task view button? My guess is show task view button, which I'm going to leave off because who uses that? Show task view button, that's correct. Besides clock and network, what other icons are visible in the notification area? So I don't know if I covered that, but this whole little chunk right here, this is the notification area. So there's network, there's the clock, and then what is this guy? So this actually took me a minute. It's the action center. I kept on trying to figure out what the crap was over here, and I thought this was just like notifications because it says no new notifications. But yeah, the answer to this question is the action center, which, whatever. Yeah. So go through that, answer those questions, familiarize yourself with the GUI or the graphical user interface. And with that, you're done with task 3. Now it's on to task 4, the file system. So in modern versions of Windows, they use NTFS, which stands for New Technology File System. And before that, they used FAT16 or FAT32 and HPFS. And you can see what those stand for right there. File allocation table, high performance file system. But those are old. So there are still FAT partitions in use today for different things like USB, micro SD, and other stuff. But on a personal computer, laptop nowadays, if you have someone who has a Windows computer, it's going to be NTFS, New Technology File System. And there are some cool features of that were not included in previous filing systems, hence why it was probably created. So in case of a failure, the New Technology File System can automatically repair folders and files based on information stored in logs. And then it can also do all this good stuff that the other file systems couldn't. So read through that. Basically, it's better. So then let's see, what did they talk about here? So if we want to see the file type that we have, we can just go to the file system. This little symbol right here, this gets you to the GUI for the file system. Then you can go to this PC and then go to local drive C, go to properties, and we can see right there, file system NTFS. So that's how you can find that if you want to find it on your computer, just to confirm. And it's good to know in case you're ever working with a computer that's not yours, you can figure out what file system they're using and what all that means. So with NTFS, you can set permissions, and you can do that with files and folders. And the permissions are full control, modify, read and execute, list folder contents, read and write. They're all pretty straightforward. You can read something, so you can look at it. You can write to something, which means you can write to the file or add to it. You can read and execute, which means you can read it and you can execute a file. And then here for meaning for folders, you can kind of read through that because it is slightly different. The meaning for files is pretty intuitive though. So list folder contents, that one only applies to folders. You can list its contents. Modified, that means you're allowed to edit it or delete it, right? You can modify it. And then full control, that's going to permit reading, writing, changing, and deleting of files and subfolders. So yeah, more often than not, you have full control of whatever it is you're doing. So, but yeah, with different files, and we'll get into this, there's different permissions. So you can view the permissions for a file, right click it, go to properties, go to security. In the groups or usernames, you'll see users, and it'll look like this, and it'll give you permissions for whatever user you selected. So to do this, we'll go to the Windows folder, because the Windows folder, we'll talk about it more later, but it has different file permissions. So like, look, right here we can see, let's do system. So system has special permissions. Administrators also have special permissions. Who is this? Users. So users can read and execute list folder contents and read. So as you can see, as you click through different users, they will have different permissions, and you can see that right there, which is pretty cool. So, and you can learn more about special permissions. Just Google it. It's basically, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to describe it other than they're special permissions that don't exactly fall into the other categories. So another feature of NTFS is alternate data streams. So you don't need to know a ton about this right now, but just know that it exists. Every file has at least one data stream, like its main primary data stream, and that's kind of represented with this $ data. But NTFS allows for more than one data stream. So basically, I'll just give you an example. Let's say I have a text file. I can open that text file, I can close that text file, I could send that text file to somebody else. So it functions just like a normal file. If I have any sort of file, there's nothing on here that tells me, even if I open the file, that there's an alternate data stream. Like the computer doesn't just tell me that at all. And so even if I go to let's go to properties on this. Right? You look through it, you can try, but there's really nothing that's going to tell you there's an alternate data stream there. And so because of that, in the past, people have hidden malware, or you could hide a secret message in an alternate data stream. That's something, if you want to know more about it, just do it. Just literally hop on a Windows machine and Google how to, use an alternate data stream, and it'll all make a lot of sense. But basically, you can hide stuff in a file, and the computer won't actually tell you that it's there. And that's what an alternate data stream allows us to do if we want to use it maliciously. Now, there are good reasons for it. It has to do with metadata and other stuff. So that's why NTF has it, but it can be used for bad stuff. Also, it's not like you can't find out if something has an alternate data stream. You just have to put in a bit of effort, and you usually do that through PowerShell, and then you can view whether or not there's an alternate data stream for files. But you're not just you have to get into PowerShell and actually use it, which, if you don't know what that is, I'll just open it for you. Right? So you have to get into this, and you have to start typing commands and everything in order to actually see an alternate data stream. But that's what it is. You should know that it exists. Other than that, don't worry about it too much. So the answer to this is new technology, not file. So what's the meaning of NTFS? New technology file system. It's the new file system that Windows likes to use. So with that, we are done with task number 4. Now it's on to task number 5, the Windows system / system 32 folder. So basically in Windows, there's a folder, and we already saw it. if we go back to our local drive, this Windows folder right here, there's a ton of stuff in there, right? And that is basically the folder that contains the whole Windows operating system. And this folder doesn't have to be in the local disk C, but 99% of the time, that's where it's going to be. And there are special environment variables for the Windows directory, for this Windows directory. And that special environment variable is %win_ir and then %. And so basically all you need to know about that is that's an environment variable that points to the Windows folder. And it says, hey, this is where the operating system is. And that's used for a lot of stuff like programming stuff and building things. So you don't really have to worry about it too much, but know that this %win_ir%, that's basically pointing you in the direction of this Windows folder that contains the whole Windows operating system. That's all you need to know for now. This can be used for several other useful things, but we're not going to talk about it. This room doesn't cover it. So then the next part it wants to talk about is inside the Windows folder, which has pretty much the whole Windows operating system. You have a folder called System32. And I couldn't tell you for the life of me why it's named System32. But what's important about the System32 folder is it holds the important files, the most important files that are critical for the operating system. So if you mess with the System32 folder, there's a chance your whole computer might just like not work at all, because everything in there is very critical for the OS to operate correctly. So you can read more about it right here. Follow that link. And then we'll move on down to the questions now that we've reviewed the Windows folder containing the operating system and the System32 folder containing critical parts of that operating system and the %win_ir% environment variable that points to this Windows folder. So that also answers this question. What is the system variable for the Windows folder? That is %win_ir%. There it is. And with that, we are done with task number 5. Now it's on to task number 6, user accounts, profiles, and permissions. So generally there's 2 types, administrator and standard user. Kind of gives you the difference here. The administrators can make changes to the system, like add users, delete users, change groups, change settings, a bunch of other stuff. Standard users can only make changes to folders and files attributed to the user, and they can't do system level stuff, like install programs. So that would be, an administrator type thing. So currently in this machine, we are logged in as administrator, which is cool. And there you go. It says it right there, administrator. So we're important. So we're currently logged in, and we can check out other users. You can click the start menu, other users, see what happens there. So I guess we'll just take a look just for fun. If we go to other users and TryHackMe, so there's another user. And it's the TryHackMe, and it's a local account. Cool. Okay, so that's what that is. You can look at other users. Because we are an administrator, we have the option to add someone else to this PC. So yeah, let me see. It wants us to kind of go through that, so I guess I'll show you that. But basically, we'll go back to where we were, other users, add someone else to this PC, and then it takes us to this thing, which I assume they'll get into next. Wait a minute. Oh no, they want us to mess with this. So we can change the account type. Basically, they're just trying to show you there's a other user on here, but because we're the administrator, we can mess around. We can do all sorts of cool stuff. We can make them an administrator or, do whatever. So perks of being an administrator, you're basically in charge of the computer. And so most of the time, you are actually the administrator of your computer. But yeah, I think they talk about that more later. So each user profile will have some of the same folders. So that's just like the basic, how this stuff pops up. That'll be the case for pretty much every user. Another way you can look at this is you can run this command right here. So lusrmgr.msc. So let's do that. So run lusrmgr.msc question mark lusermgr.msc. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And well, look at that. It takes us back to where we just were before. So a lot of the Windows system is you can get to the same place in multiple ways. So that's also why they're showing you this. It's just to realize that. And then let's see. So now that we're in here, we got two folders, users, groups. Users, it's going to give us a long list of users. And then the groups, it gives you the name of the local group along with a brief description for each group. Each group has permissions set to it, and users can be assigned or added to a group or taken away from a group by an administrator. When a user is assigned to that group, that user gets all of the permissions of that group. And one user could be assigned to like multiple groups and have lots of permissions, or maybe they're assigned to one group and just have a few, or however it shakes out. So that's what you can do here. I can basically, if I wanted to, I could give the TryHackMe user more permissions or less, and an easy way to do that would just be by adding them to these different groups, and you get a name and a description. So down to the questions. What is the name of the other user account? TryHackMe Billy. Sweet. So that's the right answer. Hopefully that's not too difficult to see, but it says it right there, TryHackMe Billy. So that's what that is. And then what group is this user a member of? Do I go to properties, or can I just go to groups and see it? You know what? I bet you I can just go to properties. Member of remote desktop users and users. So just right click, went to properties, found that. So what group? So he is a group, he is in the group remote desktop users, and then users. And I knew to put that comma there just because they kind of give you the answer format. So that's why you have to put that in there. And then the next question, what built-in account for guests? What built-in account is for guest access to the computer? And that would just be, if I go back to users, probably guest, question mark. Yeah, pretty straightforward. And then what is the account description for who? It's gotta be this one, because that's weird. Okay. Oh yeah, because if I wasn't sure about my answer here, which I was being sarcastic, but whatever, then you can actually see that it is for guests right there. Okay, so window, $, fun1 exclamation point. Is that it? Window, is it window or Windows? I bet it's window. Yeah, it is. Okay, sweet. So then you've answered that. So hopefully now you understand a little bit about user accounts, how you can be an administrator or a regular. Each one of those has a profile, and with that, you kind of get some basic folders and stuff. And hopefully now you know a little bit about permissions and groups and how that all comes together so you can organize lots of people. So that's task 6. Now that we're done with that, it's on to task 7. User account control. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Most home users are system administrators in their home because, you know, you can download stuff, you can upload stuff, you can like delete things, you can do whatever you want on your computer because it's your computer. So you are most likely a local administrator on that computer. But it's basically going to go, you can read through this, but basically what it's saying is if you're a local administrator on the computer and somehow you got hacked or downloaded malware, that malware would also have administrator privileges. So it would make it a lot easier for it to infect the system or compromise things or what have you, or just get hacked or ruined in general. So what Windows does is to protect people who have those high privileges. They use something called user account control. And basically what that means is if you're about to do something that requires administrator privileges, a window will pop up and it'll like ask you, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Then you'll say sure, and then sometimes it'll make you like put in a password and stuff. So, and you can read through all that. It'll kind of explain it. And yeah, here we go. So the example, read through all this, but the example that they give you is there's Wireshark on our Windows machine. Let me just minimize all this garbage. Okay, so Wireshark, and see how it has this download button? That's because we are system administrators. Normally, what it would have, this little shield thing. So basically, if that were the case and you tried to download it, then it's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? And then it's going to ask for a password. And why is that little shield there? Because of user account control, right? Because it's just basically trying to protect you and make sure like, hey, it is your computer, you're totally in charge of it. But that means if you get hacked or if you download malware, then you know, that becomes much easier for the hacker or the malware to ruin your computer. So are you sure you want to do this? So yeah, read through that, learn more about it. And then what does UAC stand for? User account control. Sweet. So with that, we are done with task 7. Next is task 8, settings and the control panel. So in a Windows system, you can go to settings. Look at that. Pretty cool, right? And then it has a bunch of settings. You can go into different stuff, mess with accounts, look at different apps, uninstall them if you want to. You can look at network, your system, other devices like printers, other stuff, and you can personalize. So a bunch of stuff you can do in Windows settings. There's also something called the control panel. Basically, the control panel is like the more advanced version of settings. Like 99% of people are just going to be using these Windows settings. But if you ever have to do anything more in depth or a bit more technical, you'll probably end up in the control panel. And oftentimes you end up in the control panel from security settings if you click the right things. So they give you a nice little example here. So if I go to network and internet, right, go to status, you got like basic stuff, no internet access, blah, 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 blah. And then what did they have you click on? In the example, I just want to follow the example. Change adapter options. Sweet. So if we go to status, right here, change adapter options. See now, if you look at this, we're in the control panel, right? So we were inside the control panel, but we were deep inside the network and internet portion of it. So they're kind of interconnected. For the most part, most users are going to stick with the settings. People that are doing a bit more advanced stuff, they're going to end up in the control panel quite a bit. So yeah, read through both of those, kind of know the difference, but they're like the same but different, and they're connected, so it's not anything crazy. And then in the control panel, change the view to small icons. What is the last setting in the control panel view? So control panel, oh, that's not it. Let me just find it. There we go. Control panel, view by small icons. The last one, Windows Defender Firewall. So that's the answer. And with that, hopefully you have a good idea about settings in the control panel. And we're done with task 8. It's on to task 9, task manager. So task manager, it's pretty cool. Basically, it's going to show you a ton of stuff about your computer. It's going to kind of look like this. You can look at the different processes, how much CPU, how much memory they're using. You can look at the performance of your computer, all sorts of stuff. So we'll actually take a look here. So you can just type in task manager, open that up. More details, because normally if you just open up task manager, it'll just kind of tell you what's running, but yeah, you want more details than that. So you can just click on more details at that bottom, and then it'll give you all of this stuff, which is what we saw in the screenshots for TryHackMe. You can kind of see everything going on. Gives you some cool performance graphics, and then users, we got administrator, and then you can see everything going on. You got details, so you have different processes and their process ID, and services. So yeah, you can look at all this stuff. I'm not going to go too into depth about that, because you'll learn more about it as you use it for different things, and you'll kind of understand, what to use it for. So yeah, same thing, click on more details, you get to see all this good stuff. So, and then they give you some stuff, some resources, so you can learn more about task manager if you want. Now it's going to ask us, what is the keyboard shortcut to open task manager? So I'm pretty sure it's control plus shift, not shaft, shift plus escape. I think that's what it is. Oh, sweet. Yeah. So there's a few different ways to get there. I just generally tend to search for it, but there are hotkeys for it, and it's control shift escape. So with that, we're done with task 9. Next, task 10, the conclusion. So yeah, just read through this. Basically, with that, you're done with task 10. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And then also, there is a Windows Fundamental Part 2 room that you gotta check out. I also have a video on that. You can click on the link on your screen, or you can just check it out on my channel. And with that, we have finished the Windows Fundamentals 1 room from TryHackMe.